Factsverse presents 20 Facts Every Motorcycle Rider Should Know About Evel Knievel. Evel Knievel is not just a motorcycle stuntman, he is a legend. During his heyday, he was larger than life, a household name in fact. He partied hard, he wore patriotic clothes, and his incredible stunts made him famous. He grew up in a small town in Montana and ended up on ABC's Wide World of Sports, often. He even had a toy line based on him that was worth hundreds of millions of dollars. If you grew up around that time, you know how famous Evel Knievel was, but you might not know everything that there is to know about him. For someone to be really good at something, it takes time. Evel started riding when he was only 13 years old. Right when he got his first bike, he started showing off. Since he wasn't skilled back then, though, he had a lot of accidents. During one of his first tricks, he crashed his motorcycle into a neighbor's garage and it caught on fire. You'd think something like that would have stopped him, but no. Evel's first jump was supposed to be a publicity stunt. He had a friend who ran a car dealership, but it wasn't going very well. The plan was to jump his motorcycle over 2 mountain lions and a bunch of rattlesnakes in a crate. He managed to clear the lions, but he crashed into the crate with the snakes. Many people wonder if his career was over when he crashed into the snakes, but nope, that just made him want to do more stunts. During his career, Evel has jumped plenty of things. You already know that he jumped over those lions and snakes. He even jumped over fountains. The thing that he liked to jump the most was cars. He started by jumping over 10 cars. When he did that, he needed to push it further to impress people. Soon 10 cars became 20, 20 became 30. He had to go bigger and better to impress, so it's probably no surprise he ended up in the hospital quite often. During his career, Evel did over 75 ramp-to-ramp jumps. This means that he would take off on one ramp, jump something crazy, and then land on the other ramp. Most of his jumps went well. He jumped cars, buses, crushed cars. During one stunt, he jumped over 50 crushed cars. There was a time that he tried to jump over a canyon, but he bailed out with his parachute, which probably saved his life. Evel attempted to jump over the fountain at Caesar's Palace in Las Vegas. When he tried to jump 151 feet over the fountain, tragedy struck. He didn't make it, and he broke his pelvis, his hip, and several ribs. He even ended up in a coma for 29 days. You'd think an accident this severe would have stopped him from doing more stunts, but no, it still didn't. It only made him more famous. After the accident, it was played over and over again on Wild World of Sports, which was really popular back then. Since his historical jump, others have tried to recreate it. The first time Evel tried to jump over rattlesnakes, it ended in tragedy. He landed on the crate that held the snakes. He decided to try and jump snakes again later in his career, though. Most people wouldn't jump a snake even if it was sleeping. Evel jumped over 100 while they were awake. He started by first jumping over a van, and then he went right to the rattlesnakes. This snake jump was much more successful than his first one. Evel did a lot of jumps over his career. Over the years, 80% of his jumps were over cars. His record is jumping 22 cars, but some believe he cleared only 21 of them. Either way, it's still very impressive. There's really no need to split hairs over one car when you're jumping over 20. Evel thought jumping cars wasn't impressive enough, though, so he decided to try and clear Greyhound buses. During one stunt, he jumped 14 buses and cleared them all. Another time, he jumped over 13 Mack trucks. That stunt didn't go as well. He ended up breaking his collarbone during the stunt. Some people believed he continued the dangerous stunts because he was crazy. Some thought he was an adrenaline junkie. Many people believe he did it for the cash, and he was making a lot of it for quite a while. Back in the 70s, Evel would earn $25,000 per jump. He was jumping at least once a week, too, so that equals to $1.3 million per year. In today's economy, that would be around $861.7 million per year. That is an awful lot of money, and it explains why he was willing to risk his life week after week. Not only was he making a lot of money, but he was a star. Evel always worried about his image. He was a tough guy and wanted to portray that. He didn't want to be associated with motorcycle gangs because in the 70s they had a bad reputation. So to separate himself from the black leather jacket-wearing bikers, he came up with a style of his own. He always wore patriotic-looking outfits. Most of his suits were white with red and blue trim. He was also big on stars. His outfits became his trademark, and it's really kind of hard to think of Evel Knievel aside from the outfits. Evel Knievel was very popular, and kids wanted to be the guy. So that's why it's no surprise that he had a toy line with his likeness. From 1972 to 1977, there were several Evel Knievel toys on the market. There was the Evel Knievel collectibles, bikes, and accessories, and he made an awful lot of money off the toys. He was an American hero, and everybody loved him. If you want a toy of your own, well, you might still be able to find them on eBay. Evel Knievel spent a total of 3 years in the hospital. If he wasn't jumping, he was recuperating from a jump. It's said that at some time or another he has broken every single bone in his body. When he finally retired from being a stuntman, he had a stroke, a bleeding esophagus, incurable lung disease, broken ribs, a broken hip, spinal fusion surgery, and a liver transplant. After all of these issues and dozens more, he decided the money was no longer worth the pain and danger. Guys like Evel Knievel live their lives moment to moment. A guy like this doesn't put away money for his future. Instead, he spends money like crazy. The more money he made, the more money he spent. He didn't worry about the future, and that was evident when he found himself struggling financially. He had so many material things that he managed to come out on top, though. He sold 2 of his yachts and 5 mink coats, and it was smooth sailing again. A good portion of his money, not surprisingly, went to paying the hospitals. Everybody knows Evel was a tough guy. Well, there was a rumor at one point that he fought somebody with 2 broken arms. He had the broken arms, not the guy he was fighting, of course. He told the Associated Press that no king or prince had ever lived a better life than him. He said that he was a guy who'd done it all. His only regret was not doing more for the ones that he loved. Evel says that he made $60 million and spent $61 million. He lost $250,000 at blackjack once and was still comfortable with $3 million in the bank. He would often fly by the seat of his pants. No pun intended. A movie about Evel Knievel was being made, and George Hamilton was starring as Evel Knievel. Well, one night Evel had too much to drink, and he worried about how this movie was going to come out. He used physical force to threaten George Hamilton and forced him to read the script. When George was done reading, Evel was happy with it. Since Evel Knievel was such a tough guy, it's surprising that he got his fashion inspiration from Liberace. He wanted his clothes to show people that he was a star, and who else had clothes that stood out as much as Liberace's? You might not expect a tough guy like Evel to talk about clean and safe living, but he did. As reckless as he was on the motorcycle, Evel was against drugs, and he often made speeches about this before he performed a stunt. He also talked a lot about the importance of wearing a helmet. When you think of the number of accidents he had, you could see why he felt that helmets were so important. It's hard to imagine Evel Knievel with a regular job, but he did have one. He sold insurance door-to-door for combined insurance. He even broke the company record. In 1 week, he sold 271 policies. The problem was that he sold them to inmates at an insane asylum. Not kidding. He did that because he wanted to be a boss. When that didn't happen, he left the company. Nice try. Evel was not born with the name Evel. He was born Robert Knievel. When he was in jail for a petty crime, his cellmates named him William Knievel, and the guards started calling him Awful Knievel. Well, soon after, they started calling Robert Knievel Evel Knievel. He changed the name of the spelling of the word evil, though, to E-V-E-L, and many people spelled it wrong his entire life. Matthew McConaughey and Evel were really close friends. When Evel died, Matthew delivered his eulogy. He said he's forever in flight now. He doesn't have to come back down. He doesn't have to land. It was a moving speech, and there wasn't a dry eye in the house. Subscribe for more.